أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة، يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Imam Hussein woke up on the day of Ashura and prayed the morning prayers with his companions. Then he stood to address his companions and told them that Allah has permitted your deaths and my death today, so have patience and fight in honor. Then he prepared them for the battle, and they were 82 brave and courageous warriors, all ready to fight the enemies of Allah. Zuhair ibn al-Qayyim was entrusted with the right wing, and Habib ibn Mudahir with the left wing. The standard was given to Abul Fadl al-Abbas because he was the bravest and most courageous of them. Umar ibn Sa'ad, the commander of the army of Yazid, performed the morning prayers on the day of Ashura as well, and came out with 30,000 troops. Amr ibn al-Hajjaj was entrusted with the right wing, and Shimr ibn al-Jawshan with the left wing. Uzair ibn Qais was put in charge of the horsemen, and Shabt ibn Rabi'i in charge of the foot soldiers. The standard was given to Duwayd. When the opposing army began advancing towards Imam Hussein and his camp, he raised his hands to the sky and he supplicated, "Oh God, I put my trust in you in every tribulation. You are my hope in every distress. You are my trust and my provider in every affair that falls upon me." The enemy approached the tents of Imam Hussein and observed the fire that the Imam's companions had lit. One of the opponent's horsemen cried out loudly, "Oh Hussein, are you rushing towards a hellfire?" "Oh Hussein, are you rushing towards hellfire in this world before the day of resurrection?" Imam Hussein asked his companions, "Who is this person?" And they replied, "It sounds like Shimr ibn al-Jawshan." The Imam replied, "Yes, it is." Then Imam Hussein said, "Son of a shepherd, you are more entitled to be scorched by the fire." Muslim ibn Awsajah said, "O son of the messenger of God, may my life be sacrificed for you. Give me permission to shoot an arrow and kill Shimr." The Imam replied, "Do not fire at him, for I do not like to initiate the fight against them." When the enemies began to approach him, he called for his horse and addressed them loudly so that everyone can hear him. He said, "O people, listen to what I have to say, and do not rush towards me, that I may admonish your duties towards me, and explain to you the reason why I came to you today. Indeed, my guardian is Allah, who revealed the book and befriends the righteous." When the sisters of Imam Hussein and the women of Rasulullah heard his speech, they came out of the tents lamenting and crying, "Wa Muhammadah, wa Aliyah, wa Fatimata, Hussein sent them to his brother Al-Abbas and his son Ali al-Akbar and told them, silence them, for by my life there will be much more to look for in the future. When the woman had calmed down, Imam Hussein praised and glorified Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he sent blessings upon Muhammad and God's angels and prophets. One reporter said, by God, I have never heard a speaker more eloquent in my life. Then the Imam called to the enemies and said, trace my descendants and reflect upon who I am. Then think and rebuke yourselves. Do you think it is lawful to kill me and violate my sanctity? Am I not the son of your prophet's daughter? Am I not the son of your prophet's successor, Ali ibn Abi Talib? Did you not hear the famous statement of the Prophet about my brother and me, saying, these two are the masters of the youth of paradise? Then he said, if you do not believe me and you are in doubt, ask Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, ask Aba Sa'id al-Khudri, ask Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'di, ask Zayd ibn Arqam. These are the companions of Rasulullah, and they will confirm that they heard this statement from Rasulullah, not me and my brother. Is this not sufficient to stop you from shedding my blood? Imam Hussein continued, if you doubt what I have said, do you also doubt that I am the son of the daughter of your messenger? By God, there is no such person but me alive. Search among yourselves or the entire world. Tell me whether you seek revenge for someone among you whom I have killed. Do you seek revenge for property that I usurped from you? Do you seek revenge for an injury that I inflicted upon you? No one responded to Imam Hussein. Then he called out, O Shabath ibn Rabi'i, O Hijr ibn Abjar, O Qais ibn al-Ash'ath, O Zayd ibn al-Harith, did you not write to me? Did you not tell me to come to Al-Kufa and we will fight for you? And now you have come here to kill me. They replied, we did not do so, and the Imam responded by saying, Subhanallah, by God, you certainly did. Amr ibn Sa'd moved forward towards the camp of Imam Hussein and said, Duwayd, bring out the standard. He then put an arrow in his bow and directed it towards the camp of Imam Hussein and released it, saying, bear witness that I was the first to strike. Thereafter, the two camps began to shoot at one another and the war began. Hardly any of Imam Hussein's men escaped being shot by an arrow. The Imam said to his companions, stand, may Allah be merciful with you. Go and meet your imminent deaths, for these arrows are the messengers of your enemies to you. He and his companions charged and fought with the enemies until 50 of Imam Hussein's men had been martyred. One after the other, the great and loyal companions of Imam Hussein went to the battlefield and were all martyred. Imam Hussein started to look around the battlefield. The Imam started to look around the battlefield, and all he could see from his companions were their mutilated, bloody bodies. Their mutilated bloody bodies on the sand of Karbala. He stood and he yelled, O the warriors of battle and the horsemen of combat, why is it that I call to you, but you do not answer me? I seek your help, but you cannot hear me. Are you asleep? Please, my dear companions, answer my call. Or is it that death has come between us so you cannot hear me? Yes, it is this world that has betrayed you, or else you would not leave your Imam all alone on the land of Karbala. Then he started to call them one by one. Oh Habib, oh Zuhair, oh Muslim, oh Burair, arise from your sleep and keep away those devils from the woman of Rasulullah. No one from the companions of Imam Hussein remained to protect the women of Rasulullah. They were all killed. No one remained besides his household, 28 loyal, brave, courageous relatives of the Imam, and they were determined to face death with rights and dignity. The first of them to go to the battlefield was Ali al-Akbar. When Imam Hussein sent Ali al-Akbar to the battlefield, his eyes brimmed with tears. Then he looked at the sky and said, "Oh Allah, you are a witness against them that the one most resembling your prophet in appearance and character has come out to them." Ali al-Akbar fought intensely, cutting down enemies left and right, and then returned to his father saying, "Oh father, I am thirsty." The Imam replied, "My dear son, be patient, for it will not be long until your grandfather Rasulullah shall give you water, and you shall never go thirsty again." Al-Akbar courageously resumed the battle. Then Murad bin Munqid said, "May all the sins of the Arabs burden me if I do not deprive his father of him." Al-Akbar continued to attack the people until Murad approached him and shook him on his chest. He called out, "Farewell, my father, for I see my grandfather Rasulullah, and he has given me a drink from the pond of Kawthar, from which I will never go thirsty from again." The enemies pounced on Ali al-Akbar and cut him up into many pieces with their swords. Imam Hussein rushed in and saw them and cut him into many pieces. He sat down by Ali al-Akbar and cried, "Ala dunya ba'daka la'afa." Oh Ali, life is not worth living after you. Imam Hussein ordered the young men of Bani Hashim to carry Ali al-Akbar's body to the tent. But how did they carry the body of Ali al-Akbar when it was in pieces? Soon after, the nephew of Imam Hussein, Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, came and he told his uncle, "Ya Aba Abdullah, oh my dear uncle, please give me permission to fight." After Imam Hussein saw the letter of his brother Al-Hasan, he gave Al-Qasim permission to go to the battlefield and fight. Al-Qasim put on the turban of his father and his father's armor, and he went into the battlefield. This young, beautiful boy that was like a shining moon, Qamar Bani Hashim, went and bravely fought. Then Amr ibn Sa'd bin Nufayl saw Al-Qasim and said, "By God, I am going to attack him and kill him." Then Al-Qasim's sandals snapped, and as he bent down to fix his sandals, Amr struck him with a sword on his head. Al-Qasim fell down on his beautiful face and called out, "Oh my uncle, they have struck me!" Imam Hussein came running like a charging lion and struck Amr with a sword and killed him. When the dust settled, Imam Hussein was seen sitting by the body of Al-Qasim. "Oh my dear nephew, Ya Azza ala Ammik." Then the Imam carried the body of Al-Qasim and placed it next to the body of Ali al-Akbar. One after the other, the relatives of Imam Hussein all advanced to the battlefield and were martyred until only one man remained. Only Al-Abbas remained to protect his brother. Al-Abbas could no longer bear seeing his friends and his family members being killed one after another. He could no longer endure the cries of the children out of thirst. Al-Abash, Al-Abash, we are thirsty. Al-Abbas went to the Imam asking for his permission to fight. The Imam said, my brother Abbas, you are the bearer of my standard. You are my backbone. If you die, my army will be no more. How can I let you go and fight? Imam Hussein instead ordered him to bring water for the children. Al-Abbas bravely mounted his horse and headed towards the Euphrates. 40,000 men, 4,000 men were guarding the Euphrates, but Al-Abbas dispersed them all out of the way. And reached the river, he came down and went into the river. He put his hands in the river to drink, but he remembered the thirst of Imam Hussein. He dropped the water immediately. He could not drink while Imam Hussein and the children were still thirsty. يا نفس من بعد الحسين هوني وبعده لا كنت أن تكوني هذا حسين وارد المني وتشربين بارد المعين تالله ما هذا فعال ديني. He threw the water and filled the water skin and headed towards the tent. As he was heading back to the tent, Zayd ibn al-Raqad al-Jahmi ambushed him from behind and struck Al-Abbas on his right hand and severed it. Al-Abbas did not stop. He carried the water skin with his left hand and he recited, Wallahi in ata'tumu yamini inni uhami abadan an dini wa an imam sadiq al-yaqini najm al-nabiy al-tahir al-amini. That if you cut off my right hand, I will forever fight you and protect the sanctity of Imam Hussein with my left hand. He carried the water skin with his left hand. He was only worried about taking the water back to the tent. But Hakim ibn Tufayl ambushed him from behind and cut off his left hand. The enemies surrounded him and threw spears at him from all directions. An arrow hit the water skin and spilled the water. Another arrow pierced his chest and another his eye. He was then hit with a pole on his head and he fell to the floor. Al-Abbas fell and called to his brother, farewell my dear brother Hussein. Imam Hussein rushed to him. He saw his hands were severed, arrows were all over his body. And in his last breathing moments, the Imam sat and placed the head of Al-Abbas in his lap. He told him, it is me, Abbas, your beloved brother Hussein. It is me, O Abbas, your beloved brother Hussein. Al-Abbas told him, forgive me that I had to die so soon, O my beloved brother. Then Al-Abbas' soul departed. The Imam stood, cried and yelled, Al-an inkasara dhahri. Now my back is broken. I have lost all my strength and my enemies have prevailed against me. Imam Hussein went back to the tents crying and grieving. His young daughter Sukaina came out asking her father where her uncle was. He promised to bring me water. Where is my uncle? Imam Hussein told her, oh Sukaina, your uncle is in a better place now. Your uncle is no longer with us. When Al-Abbas was killed, Imam Hussein turned left and right and saw no one was left to help him. He saw his companions and his family members were all slaughtered and their bodies were mutilated on the sands of Karbala. He heard the wails of the orphans screaming, Al-Abash! Al-Abash! He yelled, "Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna?" Is there no one left to support the family of Rasulullah, to protect the sanctity of Rasulullah? When Imam Zainul Abidin heard that call, he stood up leaning on a cane and dragged his sword to go defend his father. Look at the example of a loyal son to his father. He dragged his sword to go and defend his father. He was very sick and could hardly move. Imam Hussein yelled to Kulthum, "Ya Kulthum, stop him! For if he is killed, the progeny of Rasulullah will be no more." She took him back to the tent, and Imam Hussein once again readied himself to go to the battlefield. He went to the tent of the woman and he called out, "Oh my sister Zainab, bring me Abdullah al-Radi." Zainab brought him Abdullah and gave him to the Imam. The Imam saw that Abdullah was dying of thirst. His face had gone pale and he could no longer move. His sister Zainab told him, "My brother, please ask the enemies for a few drops of water for this little baby. He is dying." The Imam took him and went to the enemies and asked for water. Instead, the Imam saw a three-headed arrow pierce the neck of Ali. Blood gushed everywhere. The Imam collected the blood in his hands and threw it towards the sky. When not a single drop returned to the ground, he said, "What gives me consolation, what makes this bearable on me, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching this." Imam Hussein now knew it was time for him to fight. He moved towards the enemy, raising his sword. He fought like a charging lion and killed many of them. Umar ibn Sa'd yelled, "This is the son of the killer of the Arabs! Surround him and fight him!" The enemy surrounded the Imam and shot many arrows at him. Imam Hussein shouted at them, "O followers of Abu Sufyan, Ya ala Abi Sufyan, if you have no religion at all and do not fear the judgment day, then at least be free men in this world." Imam Hussein knew that his time was coming to an end, so he returned to the camps to farewell his family. He ordered them to be patient and he said, "Oh my family, get ready for affliction and tribulation. They will abuse you after me." And be aware that Allah is protecting you and will save you from the enemies of Allah. He shall punish your enemies and compensate you for this tragedy. So do not say anything that you shall regret. Imam Hussein looked to his daughter Sukaina. She was all alone, crying and wailing in a corner. He stood next to her to console her and he told her, "My daughter Sukaina, please be strong. Please have patience." Sukaina said, "Father, if you have surrendered to death, then who shall protect me? I shall be an orphan after you." Imam Hussein said, "How can someone that has no supporters at all between the enemies not surrender to death, my dear Sukaina? How can someone who has no supporters at all between the enemies not surrender to death, my dear Sukaina? لا تحرقي قلبي بدمعك حسرتي." Please, O Sukaina, do not burn my heart with your tears. Sukaina, do not make this trial harder on me than it already is. Imam Hussein hugged her and wiped her tears. Umar ibn Sa'd yelled, "Woe unto you! Attack him since he is distracted with his family members. For by Allah, if he comes to fight you, he shall destroy you." Then the enemy surrounded the Imam and began to shoot him with arrows. Imam Hussein attacked the enemy once again like an angry lion and killed anyone that faced him. Then Abu al-Hukuf al-Ju'fi shot the Imam with an arrow on his forehead. The Imam pulled the arrow from his forehead and the blood began gushing over his face. The Imam became very weak. He stood in a corner to rest. It was then that a man hit him with a stone on his forehead. Then another man shot him with a 3-pronged arrow that pierced his chest. He started to say, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. Then he raised his head towards the heaven and said, Oh Allah, you bear witness that they are killing the only grandson of your prophet. As soon as he took the arrow out of his chest, blood gushed forth like a drained pipe, and he placed his hands on the wound. When his hands were filled with his own blood, he threw it towards the sky, saying, What gives me consolation, what makes this bearable, is that I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching this. He filled his hands with his own blood again and began smearing it into his beard and said, This is how I want to face my grandfather Rasulullah in paradise, smeared with my own blood so he knows what his followers did to me. Imam Hussein remained powerless on the ground. He was losing more and more blood as he lay there on the ground. Every time one of the enemies came to kill the Imam, they would run back screaming, By God, I see the eyes of Rasulullah in his eyes. The enemies surrounded him again. Zar'a bin Sharik struck the Imam on his shoulder. Another one of them struck the Imam on his mouth. Another struck him on his chest and another on his back. Imam Hussein raised his hands to the sky in his final seconds and recited this dua. Allahumma sabran ala qada'ik. اللهم صبرا على نزول بلائك يا رب لا إله سوادك ولا معبود غيرك. He said, Oh Allah, give me the patience so that I can endure what is happening to me. Zainab was watching her brother Imam Hussein from far. She started to shout, Wa Muhammadin wa Aliyin wa Fatima. ليت السماء أطبقت على الأرض وليت الجبال تدككت على السحاب. She said, I wish that the entire world would be destroyed from what I was seeing. I wish that the mountains would become the sands. Imam Hussein is laying on the floor and his blood is gushing out and there is no one around him to support him. She then yelled at Umar ibn Sa'ad, Imam Hussein is being killed and you are standing there watching. Is there no Muslim amongst you to help the Imam? Umar ibn Sa'ad then yelled, Go to him and relieve him of his pain. No one would dare kill the Imam except this vicious cursed man, Shimil. Can you imagine the condition of the Imam at this point? He is dying. He's covered in his own blood and he is breathing his last second. Usually when somebody is in this situation, we call them an ambulance. We take them to the hospital so that we can save them. But nobody came to save the Imam. Instead, he got a very different treatment. Shimr came and he kicked the head of the holy Imam. Then he sat on the chest of the Imam and grabbed his beard. Then he sat on the chest of the Imam and grabbed his beard. he took out his sword and struck the Imam on his neck 12 times before he severed the beautiful head of the Imam. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. والفاتحة مع الصلوات.